All right. So I'm sitting here with David Jaeger. You go by David or David?
I go by either. I'm
All
both.
right. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're from, what you're doing?
Sure. So I've been in digital marketing for about 12 years. Been around the block in many different industries and verticals. Perhaps my claim to fame, what people, I guess, most know me for, is I did a stint for about 5 years at an SEO company. Originally, it was SEO called National Positions. I built their PPC division from scratch. Took it from about $0 to $2 million a year in billing, managing and over the period of time where I was there, managed close to $100 million in ad spend, got at the cutting edge of e-commerce as well as complex tracking, cross-channel tracking for enterprise and service businesses. Then from there, I've gone on and we do web design, we do web development, digital strategy, trying to map back P&Ls and SEO. So I've been around the block. I'm sure, if you guys follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever, you'll see random posts about some of the, different areas of digital marketing. But that's the 2-minute version for myself.
At 2 minutes and 12 years, that's pretty good. So basically what I wanted to discuss with you was, we're heading into 2020, we're heading into a new decade. So, I mean, it's kind of a broad topic, but where do you see digital marketing going? Where should people be focusing their efforts more?
So I would say, from my perspective, having been in it for about 12 years, the fundamentals don't change that much. What does change is a model that I call commoditization, where as everybody starts wrapping their head around, digital marketing and what it means, and everybody becomes comfortable, even your average person who 10 years ago couldn't figure out how live chat works is now, talking about SEO or content or et cetera. And so there's going to become a lot more crowding in the market, which means that it's going to require, basically the bottom line is, number one, is get into digital, own your own digital and your share of what you're doing very, very, very well, because that market's going to start getting crowded, and the players that win now are the ones that are going to win big. Even now, I don't believe that we've hit that full flash of the transition to the internet the way it is. So I'd say that's a big line.
I just have a question about that. So basically, like, what I'm getting at is that people, the millennials, I guess, who grew up with the internet are now getting a little bit older, and everyone, like people our age, generally can figure out how to build a website, generally can figure out what SEO is, generally can figure out like ads. So now the whole group is getting kind of smarter and wiser about the internet. And so we had to figure out a different strategy, like to own our share, own our own digital marketing, perhaps invest more efforts in branding ourselves, in content production. Is that kind of where you're heading and where your head's at?
There's definitely that. I think that's a big piece of it. The biggest thing is just execute on it and do it. Even content is going to continue to get more and more crowded. So really, I mean, people think that, I have to jump to the latest, newest channel that's not crowded. In my experience, it's not true. Google Ads is still, it's nothing that anybody talks about as very exciting. It works. SEO, it works. It creates a significant amount of market share. Facebook is already starting to get old, but it works, and most people don't really do a great job at it. So it's not just, jump in and build a brand, which is 100% true, but it's also do your fundamentals, to figure out which channels your customers are in, and just double down, invest in it, as much as you can, smartly, but, just really take it seriously, because now it's not the Wild West any longer, but it's still very, very wide open, even the channels that people think of as mature.
So now that there are new channels, you're mentioning like immature channels, it's not necessarily worth investing on. What kind of channels are you referring to?
So I'm actually saying the opposite. I think the mature channels are worth investing on.
No,
your mature channels are
the immature channels, like the newer channels.
Oh, so newer channels. I think there's a number of undervalued ones, and they're in different markets. But for example, let's just say TikTok or video, or, let's say Snapchat, some of these areas where there's definitely a lot of money to be made. And so for some businesses, it's a very good channel, but for many, it's not. And so a lot of people will be jumping in. Oh, for example, here's another one that's terrible, is influencers. It's completely overvalued. Every single agency is, big agency has sold it to their big clients to, say, oh, look, I put it to this guy who has 1 million followers. And all of a sudden everybody's wising up and realizing that, they've all been inflating follower counts, and that influencer posts don't really hang out that long. So you really have to be smart.
They're buying followers, and it's just, that when they post something, they're going to get like X number of likes, so people aren't really following these kinds of people, these influencers, but it's just kind of like this false narrative.
Yeah, it's a part of it is a false narrative. Part of it is big agencies taking advantage of corporate prospects, because the big guys, they're looking for what's called reach. They don't want targeting. They don't want specifics. They don't want to spend $5,000 in the most valuable way possible. They want to be able your executive board, it still consists of people who have been in TV, who are looking at reach and frequency metrics. That's where their head's at. They want to hit everybody. And the agency wants to milk them for as much as possible. So they make these very big decks that really overvalue it. And then you also come across different people bragging about the influencer work that they've done that's made them a ton of money, but it doesn't necessarily transfer. And then, somebody with 10,000 followers is sending you a media kit and charging you $500 for a post, which in no world is it worth that.
Oh, okay, so I kind of wanted to just switch gears a second. Privacy, it's not something that we wanted to talk about. Privacy is generally a hot topic. We're generally losing a lot of privacy. I think that you had something to say about that, like with this geofencing and the latest.
Sure. So, geofencing is a little bit different. Privacy is a big issue, right? So there's been a lot of, flack given to Facebook and Google about, how private their content is. Really, it's just Facebook. Facebook's super douchey. You're screwed. Like, you're in Facebook, like, they have all your data. They just give, like, token, like, every single time they get pulled into Congress, there's, like, some token stuff that they do to fix it. And then Google on the opposite side is actually very, very good about being transparent about what they know about you, and what and what they're sharing with you and how they're targeting you. On the flip side, when you talk about targeting, in Google land, unless you have thousands of people to target at once with some type of segmentation, it's really the system just doesn't kick in, because they only deal with larger groups. On the Facebook side, you can start targeting an audience of 50 or 100 people, etc. So you can really micro target. And so an area that's been shady, and that works very, very well. As I mentioned to you, I think before, there's lots of agencies that are selling these leads that they're getting for dirt cheap to different service businesses, but it's off of geofencing. So Facebook has, because when you on your Android or iPhone, when you authorize Facebook or Google or any other app to access your location, they know within a couple of feet where you are. And then when they sell inventory space and banner space, ad space, you're able to target to that specific location. The bottom line is privacy. I get very concerned about privacy because Europe and California and the U.S. as a whole, they're completely off base. Like, privacy, it's not a cookie issue. Like, at the end of the day, we're like, when we cut off our tech companies from knowing more about us, that means that they're making less money, less profit on the advertising, and we want our tech industry to be roaring. The problem with privacy is when you have idiots like Experian that are using 20-year-old tech and they own like everybody's socials, and now if you go to the dark web with a breach, all your socials are there and they get a slap on the wrist. That's a real privacy issue. The rest of the stuff is semantics, because at the end of the day, you can't function on the internet without being cookied and without the website knowing if you logged in or you didn't log in. and somebody's always going to know whether you opt out or not. You logged into Facebook on your phone or on an app on your phone, Facebook knows everything about you. So all it does is it destroys all your third-party players, and just leaves your big bucket, your Microsofts, your Googles, your your Facebooks of the world. They have everything and they own the whole industry, and you're screwed by them. And then it's just, all the big players are they basically own the whole industry, and everybody else starts falling apart. But the bottom line is privacy is a legitimate issue. I think I mentioned to you, the CCPA law.
It's really what you're focusing on is like the socials, like, an Experian is using old data rather than, someone having this geofencing where they know where you are within a couple of feet, or whether you're going in and out of certain locations like that. That seems to be more of the issue rather people,
right.
people they really care about, do I have my money, or is someone going to steal my money? That's basically like what it is.
Right.
Are people going to be going into, my bank accounts and just jacking my funds? I don't think people really care. Birth dates, no one cares. First name, last name, no one cares. Address, maybe some people care, but you could just find that out online anyway. I mean, it's really just about, is my money protected? That's what people care about when it comes to privacy.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous that you go to a website and your IP address should be considered personally identifiable information. Right? Your IP address is your IP address. It's how computers talk to each other. You have to grab it. A cookie that they're cooking you with.
Really private though.
Mm-hmm.
Is an IP address really private? Because if you're going to, for example, you fill out a contact form. When you fill out a contact form, the IP address can be disclosed right after that. So, I mean, how private is it really?
It creates a lot of problems. Even on the real problem is cookies. So IP addresses you're okay with, and at the end of the day, basically, that's the other thing, is obnoxious. You ever go to a website that has that little pop-up that says, do you accept cookies? What are you going to say, no? Right? Half the time you just say, yes, I don't really care. So now you're just making me take another click, which is annoying as heck. It's useless. It doesn't do anything. And then the other side is, as advertisers, not just, I was talking about the independent ad server guys that are screwed, us as advertisers are screwed. Like Apple has gone into, they released what's called ITP, which is an intelligent tracking protocol, and they basically delete cookies right and left. And your Apple customers, your Apple users are some of your best users, but because the cookies are gone and they're destroyed after 24 hours if you're lucky, then you can't really track anything, right? You don't know if they converted or not, which means you can't spend efficiently as an advertiser, especially as a smaller advertiser. You're either underspending or you're overspending, meaning you're just going to spend to blanket the industry and get screwed because it's inefficient, or you're going to underspend because, hey, you know what, my Apple stuff doesn't work because I'm not seeing any leads come through. But in reality, you got a ton of leads from there, and you just never knew it. So privacy is a very, very big issue for small businesses and third-party servers and the industry as a whole. And then on top of that, the California CCPA laws are basically, they do this with a whole bunch of their stuff, which a whole bunch of their laws that they unilaterally throw down is they basically, anybody can sue you as a vendor if you don't fix a CCPA violation. And they can create lawsuits on you.
That's its own heavy whole thing. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely more to talk about. So
for sure.
Good talking. I'm gonna stop the recording now.